Om Shri Sai Ram. I offer my most humble pranams at the lotus feet of beloved Bhagwan. Dearest Swami, respected elders, dear brothers and sisters. It is always a pleasure and honor to think about Swami, speak about Swami. I always begin my talks with this statement. But today, I would like to state it more emphatically, because just before starting this satsang, I was watching a satsang in which a beautiful insight was shared. I would like to begin with sharing that insight. There is a very popular bhajan, Bhakta Vatsala Tero Naam, and sometimes that bhajan begins with an alap. Please forgive my voice, but I really feel like singing it. It goes as Har pal har kshan bhool kare hum, pag pag ठोकर खाए, एक पग आगे दो पग पीछे साई, तुम तक कैसे आए. This line, this poem, हर पल हर क्षण भूल करे हम. Every moment, every second, I am making mistakes. Pag pag thokar khaye. At every step that I take, I am meeting obstacles and I am tripping over. I am falling over. Ek pag aage, do pag piche. For every step that I take towards you, Swami, I am taking 2 steps backwards away from you. Tum tak kaise aaye? How can I reach you? This is the meaning that comes, and anywhere where I have searched on the internet, this is the meaning that has been put also. Makes sense also. And every time this alap is sung, I close my eyes and I used to shed tears thinking, yes Swami, how will I ever reach you? I can never reach you, because if I take 1 step towards you and I am taking 2 steps away from you, how will I reach you? Till today, something so beautiful happened. Like even as I'm thinking of it, my eyes are welling up, because it was such a paradigm shifting thought, It was shared by another of our senior brothers, Brother Bal Ramachandran. He had shared it, and Brother Anand, who is his classmate, shared it in a satsang, and I heard it and it was so overwhelming, It changes the whole meaning. Because that is the beauty of the Hindi language. Tum tak kaise aaye, on one hand it means, how can I ever reach you? How can we ever reach you? Tum tak kaise aaye also means, how did we ever reach you? Exclamation mark. How can I ever reach you? Question mark can also mean, how did I ever reach you? Exclamation mark. It filled me with, even as I say this, I'm getting goosebumps, because it changes the entire meaning now. Pag pag ठोकर खाए, एक पग आगे दो पग पीछे साई, तुम तक कैसे आए, करुणा सागर परमा दयालु साई. It's an exclamation mark as to Swami, making mistakes all my life, taking 1 step towards you, 2 steps away from you. How did I reach you, Swami? How did we reach you? We reached you because your Karuna Sagar, Parama Kripalu. It is surely your love and grace that I have reached you. We have reached you. And when I heard this interpretation, this perspective, this is the right perspective. Bhagata Vatsala Tero Naam. That's how the bhajan begins. Because Bhagata Vatsalya is the love that a mother has towards the child. And that 1,000 million mothers' love we have been fortunate to get. And that is why we have been able to reach Swami. Today I realize that this alap is not about me at all. It's not about how faulty I am, how many mistakes I make, how difficult, how will I never be able to reach. It's not a poem of lament. Swami, how will I reach you, Swami? Because I'm so imperfect. It's actually an exaltation saying, oh Swami, you are filled with so much karuna, with so much love, that despite all of these lacunae in me, I have reached you. How did I reach you, Swami? How did I reach you with all these negatives? That is your love, Swami. That is your karuna. That is your compassion. Ahetuka daya sindhu dese. Meaning, Swami is an ocean of causeless compassion, reasonless compassion. No reason for his love, no season for his love. And it is because of that we have reached him. So this is the most important lesson that I have learned at the lotus feet. And through all the experiences, whether it was during my school days, my college days, or during my working days at Radio Sai, I think the same thing was drilled down again and again. That Swami is most important, nothing else is important. Neither your friends, nor your relationships, nor your money, nor your career, nor your ego. Nothing matters. So yes, let me travel back in time to 1998. I had joined as a student at the Sri Sathya Sai Higher Secondary School, and I had always wanted to be a student because of the physical proximity that I saw Swami students enjoying. When I had visited Prashanti Nilayam, I would wait in the sun, get token lines, go inside and sit. And just before Swami would come, maybe about 15 minutes or 20 minutes before, there would be thundering hooves running into the darshan grounds. Students, a herd of white buffaloes storming into the darshan hall and coming and occupying all the front seats. So unfair, so unfair. I used to think, who are these? Who are these boys and how come they are sitting in the front? I also want to be like that. Little did I know at that time that they were indeed Swami's Dunnapotas. Swami would call them Dunnapotas. Swami would call us Dunnapotas. Oh my God. See, that is the magic of love, If you will never celebrate and remember fondly, but remember fondly with tears in your eyes that somebody called you a buffalo. But that is what Swami's love does, When Swami calls you Dunnapota, it is the greatest honor. It's greater than Padma Shri, Padma Vibhushan, greater than the Oscar awards. I don't know, whatever it's such a great honor. Swami, call me anything. Just call me. Call me a pakoda. You go and call a plus size person as pakoda or bonda. He or she will get angry, upset. But Swami calls them pakoda. They celebrate. They remember fondly. They say, I am Swami's pakoda. I am Swami's giraffe. I am Swami's Dunnapota. I am Swami's mental hospital. Swami used to call me mental hospital for some time. And you know what? I really think I must be mad because I used to celebrate. I used to feel happy. Wow, Swami called me mental hospital. Because that is the magic of love. Once you get in, you want to get into form. Now, what is this concept of form? I think it's a term borrowed from cricket and other sports, wherein, if you're in form, you just can't do anything wrong. Everyone will notice you, observe you. And that's what happens with Swami as well. If you're a form boy, Swami speaks to you daily. You just cannot make any mistake. You come running into the mandir, and on the way, possibly you bump into an elderly person, and that elderly person is about to fall, somehow regains balance because you're rushing to catch a seat in the front. If you're a normal student, if Swami sees that, he'll come and reprimand you. He'll say, hey, what is this, running in leather? No manners, no common sense, buddhi ledu. What if that elderly person had fallen and broken his bones? Huh? But if you're a farm boy, you do the same thing. Swami will come and tell, at an age where youngsters go behind movie stars, where they go behind films, where they go behind so many things, where can you find such youngsters running for God? What a noble quality. And he'll praise. So that's a farm boy. And everybody would want to be a farm boy. I too wanted to be a farm boy. But never managed to get much conversation with Swami. As I said, the maximum I got was a mental hospital here or a Dunna Pota there. That's all. And I would hold on to those few words, cherish them, and hope that someday Swami will talk to me, give me a chance, interact with me, get to know me personally. This is the beautiful thing, the Maya that the form brings. You want to be known to Swami, though Swami knows everything. Now, when Swami asks, where do you come from? It's not because he's wanting to gather information. It's just a chance that he gives. And if he gives you the chance, you're in form. You will love that. So, I was wondering, what should I do? I want to do something to break into form. What to do? By that time, I had heard in a couple of discourses where Swami used to always say, Na karmana na prajaya dhanena tyagena ike amrutatva manashuhu. Meaning, yeah, we all know it, not by action, nor by progeny, nor by your influence. It is only through sacrifice that you can achieve the immortality. For us, immortality is God, yes, achieve Swami. So, sacrifice. And sacrifice means giving up something that is dear to you for something that is dearer to you. It's not like, you cannot say that I'm going to sacrifice eating bitter gourd. That's not a sacrifice. I mean, unless you love bitter gourd and you can't spend a week without eating it. So sacrifice is something which we make when we give up something that is dear to us for the sake of something that is dearer to us. We cannot give up eating bitter gourd and say I have sacrificed bitter gourd, unless of course I love bitter gourd. Coming back to that, I felt that if I sacrifice something that is dear to me, then the probability of me getting into form will go up. There's a greater chance of me getting into form. And I thought that this year when the winter vacation comes, so every year we have a winter vacation and a summer vacation. The winter vacation is about 10 to 15 days. Summer vacation is for 45 to 60 days. I thought, I will give up. I won't go home. So very, very big deal for me because very, very attached to my parents and so love getting back home. My sun sign is Cancer, a Cancerian. For those of you interested in sun signs, is very, very attached to home. Home is very, very dear to me. And I felt, okay, Swami, for your sake, so that you speak to me once, I'm going to sacrifice my vacation. I'm not going to go home. I'm going to stay back. In the later years, when we reach college, a lot of students used to stay back, not going home for the vacation. But in school, very few would do that. For instance, in 1998, 20th October to 31st October was the winter vacation. And I think about 30 of us out of 300 stayed back in the hostel. Rest everybody left for home. And even among those 30 who stayed back, about 10 to 15 of them stayed back because their home was in the northeast or near Nepal, very, very far. Doesn't make sense to travel that much and come back in 10 days. So only about 10 to 15 of us actually, sacrificed our holidays and stayed back. And the first few days of the vacation were terrible. Nothing happened different. It's not as if Swami would come and speak to us specially. It's not even as if during darshan Swami would spend a little extra time. It was like any other day normally. Any other day Swami would come, take a round, call people for interview, finish interview, do bhajans and go. Same thing was happening even these days. There was nothing special as such happening. And then you come back to the hostel, there's hardly anybody in the hostel. You're almost alone in your room and you miss your home. You think, all this time you could have had fun. You could have watched a television. You could have played with your friends. And, I call my parents, I miss them. My mother speaks to me. She says, no, you have done a good thing. Stay on. So important it is. For all the parents out there, it is so important to support the children on this. I got a lot of support from my parents. Sometimes I would say that I want to come home. They would say, why? Be with Swami, be with Swami. And I used to think, what sort of parents you are? You don't want your child to come home or what? They had to bear all these things, all these taunts from me, all these words from me. But they were firm and fixed. They said, no, you stay with Swami, that is the best. If you want to come, definitely you are welcome, but we prefer that you stay with Swami. Stay with Swami as much as you can. Don't let go of his feet. It's so important because this is the most important thing in our life, and it doesn't come easy. We need all the motivation possible. That is the reason we do satsangs. That is the reason we do all this. That when it becomes so difficult to think of Swami because we are so filled in our own world with so many things, we have to keep reminding, dear brother, dear sister, most important is Swami. If you miss Swami, whole life is gone. It's like focusing on the bhel puri and raw mango that I'm eating in the train, not bothered whether the train is moving or not. The train movement towards the destination is Swami. All the other things we do is nothing but raw mango and bhel puri, that's all. Bhel puri is, it's a chaat that we eat. So, this motivation was there from the parents, even the teachers. Amazing, what an important role these teachers played in my life. They kept saying, see, every little thing, every small thing that you do for God will not go in vain. Possibly that's the only being for whom you do anything which doesn't go in vain. In the Gitanjali, Rabindranath Tagore, the 50th poem. And when I'm saying the 50th poem, please don't think that I'm well versed in the Gitanjali. I have read one poem from the Gitanjali and that is the 50th poem. And I don't know that poem by heart, but the spirit of the poem is that I waited for the emperor to arrive. I looked at the horizon, the golden setting sun, and there the golden chariot in which the emperor is coming. I began to prepare my wish list. All that I'm going to ask from him, my day, my life, everything is going to change. And as the emperor comes, the chariot halts, the golden dust settles, the emperor gets down from the chariot, stretches out his hand and asks, what have you got to give me? What can you give me? Oh, what kingly jest is this? Are you mocking me? I am planning to ask you so many things and you come and ask me what I have got to give you. And so I opened my jhola, my bag, my rucksack. I had just some food that I had collected for the day. From there I picked one corn, and from that corn I picked one grain. Possibly that much I can let go from my dinner, right? I will not have to, I don't want to sleep hungry. So I'll give him one grain of corn. And I gave him one grain of corn. Because this is all I can give you. But the emperor was happy. He said thank you, accepted it, climbed the chariot and off he was. Very strange incident. I thought he has come to give me, and he came and took from me. Night when I went and emptied my rucksack, my food had gotten stale and had rotten as well. But amidst all that, I saw one golden grain of corn. Ah, if only I had given my all to him. No, that's such a beautiful poem. He says that, oh my God, when we realize how God, when he says as Bangaru, he is a golden touch. He is the Parasmani. He is the alchemist. With a touch, he transmutes us into gold. Whatever little, this much tiny thing also we give Swami, comes back to us manifold. Possibly not immediately. Possibly It doesn't happen even in a couple of months, and that's why we wonder, why am I doing this? Why can't I just be like anybody else? But no, it is only that which we offer to him that turns golden. Everything else rots. It's a waste. And this message was drilled in again and again, not just by Swami, by his teachers, by the lovely parents that he had given. That is the importance of satsang. Because, as I said, the most important lesson I have learnt at his lotus feet is that it is most important to be at his lotus feet. Nothing else matters. And to drive home this lesson and keep reminding us of this lesson day in and day out, we need satsang. We need satsang. And that is what actually made me also hold on during that vacation. Nothing is happening but, okay, Swami, I will come and sit in the mandir for 3 hours. I have decided to give up my vacation for your sake. Not just 3 hours in the evening, 3 hours in the morning as well. 6 hours I will sit. From a worldly perspective, it's a total waste of time, sitting for 6 hours. But I'm waiting for you, Swami. I'm waiting for you. Nothing else matters, Swami. Nothing else matters. I wish those days can come back where I can sit for hours waiting for you, knowing for sure that at the end of that wait, I'll be rewarded with a glimpse of your form. It's just that now you want me to have that glimpse within. It's very difficult, Swami. It's very difficult because I've gotten so used to your form. So I pray, I pine and I yearn. But all the experiences so far has shown me that it is not in vain. That will not go waste. Every teardrop shed for God. Even when I feel sad and shed a tear, I feel happy within because I know that that teardrop won't go in vain. Swami's hands will come to catch each and every teardrop we shed for him. Because he values our tears. Nobody else. Nothing else in this universe values our tears the way Swami values. Because he knows these are droplets of love. And he thirsts only for love. So days passed. We had some nice picnics during the vacation. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. All satsang prabhav, when I went into that Harpal Harakshan, I just got so overwhelmed listening to that perspective, and I don't know, I'm finding myself simply crying without reason so many times today. So please forgive that emotional outburst. Then one day, the 28th of October, something beautiful happened. During darshan, Swami had called in a group from Andhra Pradesh, a group of devotees who had come. He called them in for an interview. And this was a group of about 125 men and 125 women. So they would not fit into the interview room. So Swami called them into the bhajan hall. And in the bhajan hall, the doors and windows were shut and it was a closed session. Swami spoke to them, interacted with them, half an hour, 45 minutes. Something happened there. I mean, none of us knew. We were all waiting outside and hoping that that interview ends and Swami comes out. So that he interacts with us, and just 3 more days left for the vacation to get over. Swami, something at least will be nice. As that session got over, the coordinator possibly for that group came walking out and he came straight to me. So currently where the Mahasamadhi is, Bhagwan's Sannidhi, the beautiful thing is Swami allowed us to sit there. We used to be seated there. So I was sitting in the second or third line there because vacation time, there were hardly anybody. And he came walking. There was a Ganesha idol there. And next to it, we were all seated. He came and I had my camera with me. It was a Nikon F90 film camera. He came to me and said, Sairam, can you come and take our photo? So I looked to the direction he was pointing. In the gents side of in Sai Kulwant Hall, there was a group of this 125 men who were gathering. And he wanted a group photo there. So I was wondering why he's asking me. So I didn't get up. He continued. He said, Swami told that you will come and take photo. And this got me even more confused. Swami told that I will come and take photo. Like, Swami doesn't even know me. Like, okay, fine, I'll take one photo. What is the big deal? I'll come. Shall I come now? I asked. He said, yeah, come now, please. So I got up and he walked fast towards his group. I began to walk towards where that group had assembled, with my camera in hand. As I proceeded there, suddenly a hush fell over the whole hall. Everybody became silent. And I was wondering what's happening. Like, why someone silent? And suddenly I realized that presence, that electric current that comes with his presence, right? Swami is there. I turned around, yes, Swami was walking and coming out. And I was stuck in the middle. I didn't know what to do. So I just plonked myself and sat down right wherever I was. Because I didn't want to be caught walking in the Kulwant hall when Swami is coming there for darshan. He is coming out to grant a bonus darshan. Swami walked past me and he walked straight towards this group of men. And then it struck me, oh, Swami is going to pose with them for a photograph. Oh, okay. That is the group photo he wanted. I was thinking they just want a group photo like with themselves, like how we take selfies right nowadays. That is what I assumed. So that's why I was wondering, what a strange request. But now it all made sense. So I got up and as Swami posed with them, I took a photograph. And then again sat back because I didn't know whether Swami will reprimand me or scold me for walking in the hall during a time when Swami is also walking. So as Swami was walking, he crossed by me again and then he asked me, are you a college boy? I was in the school, but I thought Swami is going to scold me. I just said, yes, Swami. Come. Where? I didn't know. And Swami is walking along the gents side, granting darshan. He told to come, so I got up with my camera around my neck. I started walking behind Swami. Wow, it was the first time and I was just 2 feet behind him. That fragrance and, Swami was even shorter than me physically. I felt, oh my God, this Lord who is my universe, who is my everything, so huge, he's so sweet. I really felt this is what is Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan. When I think of Swami, he envelops my entire heart, my entire universe, my entire world. He's so huge. He's the biggest thing in my life. And here he is so sweet and tiny. Wow. Yes, he is smaller than the smallest, cuter than the cutest, larger than the largest, grander than the grandest. And I was walking behind him and Swami is walking ahead. I'm able to get the fragrance. I'm seeing his beautiful curly mop. So delicate like cotton, moving. A thrilling experience. First time for me and I'm walking behind him. And suddenly Swami stopped, turned around, looked at me. It was almost as if he's surprised as to why are you following me? And I also in my face, no conversation happened, but this was just in my mind. I was also saying, Swami, you told me to come and I'm coming. Swami said, go to ladies' side. Go to ladies' side. Is this a command? Is this a test? What? Is it a joke? I didn't know. Swami just said, go to ladies' side. Turn and continue to give darshan. How will I go to ladies' side? I didn't know what to do. So I started walking away because Swami wanted me to go. But I didn't go to the ladies' side. I went and stood near the interview room door. That's exactly like a midway between the ladies and gents side. I stood near the interview room door. Thinking, let me ask, when Swami comes, I'll ask him what did he mean, go to ladies' side, was it whatever. Swami finished darshan along the gent side and Swami now entered the ladies' side. And from a distance he turned and looked at me. I was at the interview room door. Swami said, go to ladies' side. It's okay. Okay, Swami, you want me to go to ladies' side? So with the camera still hanging on my neck, and I walked to the ladies' side. And the moment I walked to the ladies' side, it again struck me. 125 ladies with an orange scarf were seated there as a group. Oh, so Swami is going to grant group photographs to the ladies as well. That's what I thought. So I went there and now I don't know what to do. I just stood. Swami came so close by, and every time he's passing by me, it's such a beautiful experience. Such a beautiful experience. And Swami tells, go there, take a photo. Okay. The spot that he indicated, I went exactly to that spot. Put the camera to my face. Swami stood like that and smiled. Take. I took a photograph. Said, Swami, taken. You know what? I was so inexperienced, such a novice. I just took one photo. Usually when Swami tells you to take a photo, you take 3, 4. Because in case 1 or 2 go bad, there is a backup, right? Nothing. I just took one photo. Click. Yes, Swami, I have taken. It was not even the digital era. It's not as if you can click and immediately have a look whether the photo has come well. It was a film camera, but I just took one. Then Swami said, come here, go to this angle. You take one more photo, Swami said. Swami was concerned about the backup. Swami said, come this side. Now from that angle that Swami pointed, I was very close to the entire group. So in my lens, I was not able to get the entire field of view. I was not able to get the entire group. Now how to capture? I'll have to cut out some ladies. Even as I was thinking this, see, these are the little things which clearly show what a perfectionist Swami is. Swami already knew that problem. Swami said, hey, you'll have to go more back, otherwise you won't get the entire group. But how do I go more back? Right behind me, again, the entire ladies, there is one more section of ladies who are seated. Then Swami just turned, looked towards those ladies who were seated behind me. Make a path, Swami said. Oh, like how the Red Sea gave way to Moses, right? The oceans parted. Like that, they just parted, Sai Ram, and made one entire path. I could go right to the back. And from there, when I saw, yes, the whole group was coming. So I clicked a picture. I took a photograph. And then Swami said, good. And again I followed. And Swami walked back. I followed Swami. When I reached near the interview room before Swami. Swami looked and said, what? Go back now, enough. You'll come with me inside or what? Oh, I just smiled and went back. Yeah, I just wish that I had the cheek to tell, yes, Swami, if given a choice, I'll come with you inside. I'll stay with you forever. I want only that. Anyway, I went back, sat, and my God, I was so happy. And I felt, Swami, wow. 9 days back, had I known that I'm getting this, I would not have felt bad about anything that came in my way. Because this joy that I'm getting, this proximity that I have got, so beautiful it is. I don't mind giving up even 30 days of vacation if I'm going to get this. See, that's the thing about sacrifice. When we sacrifice something that is dear to us, yeah, we feel the pinch, we miss it. But when we do it with the conviction and faith that I'm doing it for Swami, let me put it the other way. If we do it for Swami, automatically we'll have the conviction and faith that definitely what I'm going to get is better than this. Because Swami is the best. You can't get anything better than Swami in this whole universe. Swami is the best. And giving up anything for Swami is not a sacrifice. Because sacrifice is when you give up something of a greater value for something of a lesser value. You give up 1,000 rupees for 10 rupees, it's a sacrifice. When you give up 10 rupees for 1,000 rupees, it's not a sacrifice. It's a smart move. So when we give up anything for Swami's sake, it can never be a sacrifice. Because Swami is the most valuable, most beautiful, most sought after gift in this universe. Nothing else is more valuable. I went back to my place. I was feeling so happy, so thrilled. Now if you ask me, did you sacrifice 9 days of vacation? No, it's not a sacrifice at all. What do you mean sacrifice? I got more than paid back in full. But the story didn't end there. That evening when I went back to the hostel, I was a hero in the hostel. My God, you're Swami's photographer. They said, whoa. My two horns came up. My chest puffed up. It's so strange, right? You get a pat on your back and your head swells up. That's the effect of ego. A gentle pat on your back and your head becomes fat. And my head had bloated. I was like, oh yes, I am Swami's photographer. I have made a sacrifice for him and Swami has rewarded me, yes, and all that. A couple of teachers again called me and they said, get the negatives developed immediately. We should give Swami the photos tomorrow. I said, oh, is that also? Yes. They said, yes. We should print and give Swami photos. Not. I said, okay. Shall I give it in the studio here? Get the film developed. Get one sample print and come as soon as possible. I was allowed to go out of the hostel, go outside, get this and come. And when I came back, the teachers, again, what amazing, how well they have been trained. They took the photographs, they counted the number of people in the photo and they said, go now order that many copies. They paid for it as well. And I said, oh, you're paying how money? Yes, don't worry, you just go ahead and do it. So 125 to 150 copies, gents and ladies, neatly tied in a ribbon. And they told the negatives also keep it separately in case Swami asks. So I cut those negatives also, those 3 photographs, one on the gent side, 2 on the lady side. Kept it in a cover, neatly wrapped everything, and I felt, wow, Swami, not just one chance, I'm going to get 2 chances. Because again, tomorrow as well, I'm going to sit in the front and I'll get a chance to talk to you. The next day, I was sitting there and I felt, come and sit near me. I was thinking, everybody should sit near me because Swami is surely going to stop and talk to me. Such, again, overconfidence that comes because of the ego. Swami simply avoided me and walked on. And when he did that, instantaneously, fully deflated. The person who was sitting near me felt, brother, what you were going on saying that Swami will surely stop and talk to you. Why did you tell like that? I wanted to tell him, you forgot about yesterday I was the hero, Nobody is ever the hero. Swami is a director who chooses somebody to be a hero for some time. We are just actors. We just have to do our roles properly. Today I might be the hero, tomorrow I might be a zero. Either ways, I must accept it as his role that he has given and go ahead with it. No use of feeling depressed, no use of feeling excited. I was excited and elated and I felt like a hero, and now I was feeling like a zero, depressed, opposite, the other end. I went to the Nadir now. From the top of Mount Everest, I went to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Didn't know where to hide my face. I didn't want to expose myself, so I sat there. And interviews went on. Swami completed the interviews, then Swami came out. And he came and started talking to the warden, who happened to be seated 3 people away from me. And as Swami was speaking there to the warden, I was thinking, should I show the photographs? No need. I'm such a useless fellow. I'm so egoistic. I'm such a sinner. I'm good for nothing. One opportunity Swami gives and I let it go like this. All these self-condemning thoughts were going on. That's also wrong. Just as pride is wrong, self-condemnation also is equally wrong. Because both are signs of ego. As I was sitting there, Swami heard the movement of the rustling of the plastic cover. Swami looked at me and said, what is that? What is the chance that Swami will hear the rustling of a plastic cover and ask what is there in the plastic cover? So many times plastic covers have rustled in his presence. But that's Swami. Everything is decided, every moment, what has to be done. It's perfect. It's a master plan. I now spoke like a mouse. I said, Swami, photos. Huh? Swami, yesterday, photos. Oh, I forgot. Swami made such a spontaneous gesture. Oh, show. I gave him the 2 bundles. Ladies, gents. Swami, oh, you didn't tell me, only come. Swami, follow me, Swami said. Again I followed Swami. 2 days in a row I am following Swami. No, thinking of it, I just pray, Swami, let me follow you, not just 2 days in a row, all the days of my life, let me follow you, Swami. Followed Swami. Swami took me outside, again to the center of the portico, stood there and beckoned to that person. In the view of the entire Kulwant hall, that person came running. And Swami asked, what is this? I said, Swami, this is gents' photos. Swami gave it to me and said, this is gents' photos, okay? What is this? Swami, they are ladies' photos. Ladies' photos, okay? Swami gave. Very happy he was. Then that person said, Swami, can I get negatives? Swami looked and said, negatives you have? I had been advised, so I pulled it out from my pocket and said, Swami, these are negatives. Swami said, good boy, good boy. Ah, what a joy to receive that from Swami. Swami said, good boy. Then I said, Swami, Pad Namaskar, can I touch your feet? Swami said, yes, teesko. Today when I look back, I don't think that Pad Namaskar was for printing the photos, that's the excuse. But I think it was because of a lesson learnt that, remember, it's not as if you are the doer and God is a witness. You are the witness, God is the doer. Live in that Sakshi Bhava. Just witness what God does with your life. Just allow Him to act through you. Allow Him to do whatever He wills through you. Just be open to any experience, open to everything. Take it as His prasadam. And you will be at His feet. Because that's where I ended, taking Pad Namaskar. Beautiful memory that I still have of that incident. And then Swami said, yes, go back and sit. I went back and sat again, very happy. Immediately a boy next to me said, brother, you are very, very special for Swami. Nothing happened this time because I had learned my lesson. I said, Sai Ram, brother, it is all Swami's grace. Karuna Sagara Parama Kripalu Sai Bhakta Vatsala Tero Naam. It is only Swami's love that we have come to Him. It is only Swami's love that matters in our life. I just want to pray to Swami. Swami, I don't know about the world, Swami, but I miss seeing you. So show yourself, Swami. Be it in my dream or anywhere, I would love to see this form somehow. I would love to feel you, Swami. Without feeling you, every day is a waste. Without thinking of you, every day is your waste. Every day is a waste. May every day, every moment be spent in contemplating about you, thinking of you. May every breath be for you. May every action be for you. May every word be for you. Thank you. Jai Sai Ram.